The fight back of Israel continues. The attack, unfortunately, on Israel also continues from three fronts. But there is some commentary that is happening on the side, which sometimes makes you wonder, what exactly are people's priorities? At a time when Israel has lost 1,300 of its citizens, when they are coping with what can only be called a second Holocaust, there are some people who have engaged in a mindless and frankly inhumane debate on were the 40 Israeli babies really beheaded? Were 40 beheaded or just 4? Were they beheaded at all, or were they shot? Or was some other method used to execute these little children? It started with a Belarusian reporter of I-24 saying that an Israeli defense officer told her that he had seen babies killed and decapitated. This claim, by the way, was repeated by multiple reporters of multiple news outlets who had been given access to the Kfar Aza kibbutz. Then, a day later, the reporter reiterated that she hadn't personally seen the bodies, but had been told so by a soldier. The result? The predictable vultures swooped in to claim that this was fake news and it was being spread about the murder of children. Now, here's the thing. First of all, this information has now officially been confirmed by not one, but multiple spokespersons and officers and soldiers of the Israeli Defense Forces. On record. The second point is, should it even matter? What is the point of this entire debate of how children are being killed, except to remember and reiterate that children were killed and children were snatched from their parents, sometimes families were killed and members were made to watch the execution. So what is the intent of this entire debate and fact check, except perhaps to whitewash the brutality of the Hamas? Before we go any further, just to set the record straight, listen in to members of the Israel Defense Force, including its spokesperson, Jonathan Conricus.
And we got very, very disturbing reports of that came from the ground that there were babies that had been beheaded. And I admit it took us some time to really understand and to verify that report. And it was hard to believe that even Hamas could perform such a barbaric act. But after eyewitnesses came forward and after a senior official in the Israeli coronary service, Zaka, came forward on record on CBS and said, yes, I saw the bodies of beheaded babies, I think we can now say with relative confidence that this is unfortunately what happened in Be'eri. This is what Hamas did to Israeli civilians.
We walk door after door. We kill a lot of the terrorists. We are stronger than them. They are aggressive. They are very bad. They cut head of children, cut head of women, but we are stronger than them.
But for those who are more worried about how exactly the crime was committed rather than the extent of the crime, here is how hapless children became victims at the hands of the Hamas. And all of this happened on camera. Mind you, the Hamas is not even trying to cover up or deny what they did. Remember, it is they who decided to film the atrocities on men, women and children and put it out there, because this was not just about attacking Israel to take away some land or some resistance. This was about terrorizing a population by coming into their houses and killing their people and reminding them that this is what we are capable of. A 10-year-old boy, Erez Calderon, was filmed being dragged by his arm by Hamas gunmen. He was snatched from his family in Kibbutz Be'eri and was dragged across the border into Gaza. Even today, his family is looking for him. There are multiple accounts today of family members who are in shock. They can't even imagine what they have seen, things that no human being should even have to hear of in their lifetime, leave alone to be subjected to it. Now imagine for these people to be told that their grief, their suffering, their anger is nothing more than propaganda and supposedly fake news. Think about it. On this day, the entire world has accepted that Israel has been attacked and it has a right to self-defense. The entire world agrees that Israel has been put through unimaginable torture. If there is anyone today who is fact-checking the misery of Israelis as propaganda, then it's the Hamas and a certain section of other people. Think about why. What really is it that they intend to achieve?
They just said, we found Emily. She's dead. And I went, yes! I went, yes, and smiled. Because that is the best news of the possibilities that I knew. That was the best possibility that I was hoping for. She was either dead or in Gaza. And if you know anything about what they do to people in Gaza, that is worse than death. That is worse than death. The way they treat you. They'd have no food, they'd have no water. She'd be in a dark room filled with Christ knows how many people, and terrified every minute, hour, day, and possible years to come. So death was a blessing, an absolute blessing.
Joining us on the show, Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, Tushar Gupta, senior editor at Swaraj, advocate Talha Rashadi, spokesperson of the Rashtriya Ulama Council, and Sanjay Jha, author. And I would request everyone, let's just be respectful and please have a respectful conversation today. Sanjay Jha, after all that you have heard right now, do you think that a supposed debate which is happening in a section, unfortunately, of our own country is completely misplaced and frankly insensitive? How does it even matter? I mean, one, that it is now confirmed by Israel that indeed children were tortured and killed in the, inhuman fashion. But two, why should it even matter?
Padmaja, since we are discussing a very sensitive matter, my kind request to you, because you're the anchor of this program, is to kindly don't allow this to degenerate into a vulgar contest where people are scoring verbal points. Let's conduct this debate by giving everybody a fair opportunity to articulate their opinion and be a lot more respectful of those who have died. That's my humble request to you, and let me now make my short point. What is unfolding in Israel and Gaza is an epic human tragedy. It's a human catastrophe. I don't think anybody can really even question that reality. Point number two, the reason why this issue of beheaded children, we all have children in our families, is really become such a massive issue on social media is because President Joe Biden, when he was addressing the press, mentioned that fact, which later on, since the most powerful man in the world said it in the press, obviously it got huge amplification. But you must remember this, that the White House later on denied, and White House was categorical, that the president was only making that statement based on hearsay, and that the White House made a clear caveat that they had no evidence to prove that such an ugly, horrific thing had really happened. Point number three, as somebody who's been part of politics and media, I can tell you this right now. We have seen it in India, by the way, and we have seen it in India 100 times. Disinformation campaigns are rampant during a time of such horrific war and ugly polarization. Nobody is above it. Hamas may be doing it. The IDF can be doing it. Important point, I can tell you this as well. I checked up on the report before I came on your program. Even the IDF has not officially, you may have somebody from there making a statement, the IDF has officially refused to confirm these allegations. Important in the interest of fairness, Hamas has been horrible, terrorist, militant-like, but they have denied it as well. Now, one can debate that till the cows come home. The last point, which is very relevant to this entire conversation, kindly also look at the number of casualties on both sides. I agree, Hamas's attack was unprovoked, but look at the number of casualties on both sides already. And the last data, which is very pertinent to our conversation. It is a horrific sight to hear the parents, and one can imagine the nightmare for Israeli and Palestinian families. But here is the point. We are not comparing death counts, but we need to look at that in perspective. I looked at the data from the United Nations source. Since 2008, and Gaza has been under Hamas since 2007, from 2008 till September 2023, if you look at the number of deaths, I'm not counting injuries, between 2008 to September 2023, as latest as the last month, the number of Palestinians killed in conflict is 6,400. The number of Israelis killed is 300 odd. You cannot ignore the disproportionate nature of human suffering, which the people in Gaza and the West Bank have gone through. Nothing will justify the act of Hamas. Nothing.
So
it's horrible, it's ugly, condemn it, it's deplorable. I don't think we are even debating that. I think we are all on the same page.
No, there is a debate. So I just want to ask you two counter questions. My first counter question is, you're saying that this is being fact-checked. I'll come to the facts of the story itself in a second.
Sure.
To counter disinformation. Disinformation against who? Disinformation against the Hamas. Because when a reporter claims that 40 children were beheaded and somebody fact-checks it as, oh, 40 children were not beheaded, you are stopping disinformation against the Hamas. Disinformation against who?
Okay, Padmaja, here it is. I have read the comprehensive report which has been covered, by the way, and I request everybody on the show and the viewers to kindly Google New York Times. They have done a full survey of 6 stories where both Hamas and the Israelis are guilty of deliberate, and it's disinformation because it's deliberate. Some of it, by the way, could be misinformation, not with a bad intent. But here is the truth. Both sides are indulging in manufacturing social media content that we all know can only aggravate the conflagration.
So we're sitting here fact-checking Israel because we don't want the fair name of Hamas to be besmirched.
I don't think anybody said that. I have read the New York Times report where both sides are guilty of trying to manufacture stories.
Which are the two sides?
The Hamas and Israelis.
So we are fact-checking Israel to stop the disinformation against Hamas. Because if they didn't behead 40 children, Hamas turns into amnesty.
Well, Padmaja, since I come on your show very often, and Times Now, I think, is, from what I saw last, is one of the most watched TV channels. I think we all should be here right now. My Sanjay Jha represents India's ruling political party. I think we all have to behave and speak responsibly.
We're speaking very responsibly. Because when you say that there are two sides and both sides are engaging in disinformation, one is a sovereign country, the second is a terrorist organization. The two cannot be equated. And let's be very clear, this, sir, as you would realize as a very educated and learned person, is in itself the problem. That we are drawing a false equivalence between a terror organization and a country and saying there are two sides to this war between the Hamas and the Israel. No. One is a terror outfit and nothing that can be said about them is disinformation.
Well,
final word, Sanjay Jha, and then I want to bring in the others. Yeah. Yes.
Here's my short answer to your question. Yes, Hamas is got terrorist manifestations, can't be denied. But please, when you call Palestinians, you can't call Palestinians terrorists, by the way. And let's recognize this reality.
It's about the Hamas, not Palestinians.
Yeah, hang on. So let me explain. The Palestinians in the West Bank and the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, by the way, cannot be branded as terrorists.
Nobody is.
Absolutely. So here is my point. And the reason why you're calling them a terrorist, or nobody's talking about a Palestinian state, is because Israel, by the way, is occupying West Bank and Gaza Strip. I have, by the way, put out a tweet which puts a fact that you need to recognize today. My last point, and I'm done. Benjamin Netanyahu in 2019, while addressing his own party, is on record to say, let us support Hamas, let us fund Hamas, because that is the best way to handle Palestine. This is Benjamin Netanyahu, who's currently the Prime Minister of Israel.
Okay, I'm actually on the other side going to be joined by Ehud Barak, where I'm going to talk to him about exactly all of this. But I want to again limit, because you did not answer my final question, which is that when we are stopping disinformation or supposed disinformation, which this is not, let me again reassert, this is not, who exactly are we shielding here? Not we, but some people. Sanju Verma, respond that disinformation is disinformation, and that is what is being countered.
You know, Padmaja, I heard for the last 15 to 16 odd minutes a long monologue by Sanjay Jha, and I agree it's a sensitive issue and we don't need to degenerate into having a tutu meme. But given the nature of the beast, and given that falsehoods are being peddled, and with, you know, gay abandon, there are certain points which your audience needs to know. First and foremost, I was in a debate yesterday also on Times Now, and Sanjay Jha was the panelist from the other side. He did not once call Hamas a terrorist organization. He kept referring to the Hamas as a militant outfit. So point number one, when you try and rationalize and normalize terror and terror outfits like Hamas by calling them as militant organizations, you are doing a great disservice to the people on both sides of the spectrum. You are trying to rationalize terror, and that cannot be condoned. Point number one. Point number two, you know, you said that, you know, West Bank and Gaza have been under Israeli occupation. So I would urge you to please read up and come for debates, because Israel was created in 1948. From 1948 to 1967, the Gaza Strip was under Egyptian occupation for 19 long years. From 1967 to 2005, for more than 30 years, I agree, for 38 odd years, it was with Israel. But since 2006, till now as we speak, for 17 long years, Gaza Strip has been under the brutal control of Hamas. While they say that, you know, they came to power only after elections were conducted in Gaza Strip in 2006, be that as it may, I just want to remind to you, for everyone who's saying Hamas is not a terror outfit and don't bring the religion angle, I just want to say one thing to you. Please read up the history of Hamas. No. It was set up in 1987.
Ma'am, here we are talking about the disinformation campaign. The disinformation campaign.
I waited for 16 minutes and you gave an uninterrupted run to Sanjay Jha. Can I get less than half the time? Can I get 5 minutes on this debate?
Yes, about the disinformation campaign.
Yes. No, because you've given a free run to Sanjay Jha on a lot of issues where he did not answer you. Please don't always put a gun to the head of the BJP spokesperson on your show. I will speak what needs to be told on your show, and I will answer your query also. I'm not here to listen to a bhashan from Sanjay Jha, which is what I've been doing. And he made zero sense.
Ma'am, please continue. Come to the point, please.
I'm coming to the point. I don't want to be heckled by you or the other panelists. The most important point is this, and your audience needs to know as much as Sanjay Jha. Hamas was set up in 1987. Hamas is a rabid Sunni Muslim outfit which clearly says that we subscribe to the Muslim Brotherhood ideology, and our intent is not to just have a free Palestine state where people live with dignity. We are not concerned about law and order in Gaza Strip. We don't care about peace, harmony, and tranquility. Our only one-point agenda is the complete destruction and annihilation of Israel. So as Benjamin Netanyahu quoted, and this is something which is viral on social media, if the Hamas and certain Arab factions lay down weapons, it will stop the Arab-Israeli war. But if Israel were to lay down weapons, it will actually lead to the complete annihilation of Israel, and Israel will not even continue as a state. And since Sanjay Jha, you've been quoting Joe Biden very generously. Let me also tell you one very important thing which Joe Biden mentioned in the last 24 hours. He said, and this is also there in New York Times, since you quoted New York Times, and I read that article before coming on Padmaja's debate. Joe Biden said, it is increasingly becoming clear, if there were no Israel, no Jew anywhere in the world would be safe.
Okay.
So Sanjay Jha, I just want to ask you one last question, because this is very important. Everyone from the opposition cabal, from the likes of Mehbooba to Congress to IUML, they've been saying, but Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he spoke.
Ma'am, we're not going to go into the politics, please. Like I said at the beginning, it's a sensitive topic. I really wanted to keep it and keep politics out of it. So please, let's just keep the Congress and the IUML, etc. out of it. Let me bring in Tushar on this. Tushar, ultimately it is disinformation, and like Sanjay Jha said, that both sides are engaging in propaganda, and that must be stopped.
Padmaja, there is one simple fact, one simple reality most of these fact checkers do not understand. When a terrorist, when a radicalized head, when a madman opens fire on innocents, plants a bomb in a city to kill innocents, rams his lorry through a supermarket, killing innocents, they don't care which side of the political ideology the innocents are on. They don't look or questions a person's political ideology before they fire on them, before they bomb them to, hell. They do not care. But these people who today are somehow diluting the magnitude of the terror that was unleashed on 7th and 8th October, why are they doing so? What is that they are getting out of it? One can understand that they do not agree with Israel's political stance. But does it somehow lead them? Does it somehow force them or tempt them to dilute the magnitude of terror? Sanjay Jha says that it has been fact-checked that the babies were not burned alive. They were slaughtered, they were killed, their bodies were charred, the remains have been found. Is that not horrible enough? The Palestinians says that the Israelis have oppressed us. Sanjay Jha gives you a number. Look, these many people killed in these many years. What was your qualm against a 3-month-old baby? What was your qualm against a individual at a music festival who was not even a part of Israel, who was not even a citizen of Israel? How did the Nepalis oppress the Hamas people? How did the Thai people oppress Hamas? How did the American people oppress Hamas? See, that is what people don't understand, Padmaja. A terrorist, a madman doesn't care for anyone's political ideology, and yet we've seen this with Kashmir also. For decades and decades, separatists were sold to us as intellectuals and freedom fighters. And today the same is happening in Hamas. Oh, this is a militant organization. They have their terror manifestations. I'm sorry, no. They are a terrorist organization. And there are people who are saying Israel shouldn't be answering hate with hate. They should be negotiating with the Palestinians. Does anyone know that 2 weeks before 7th October, Israel reopened its gates for Palestinians who wanted to come and work there? Every day, 15 to 20,000 Palestinians were engaged in menial jobs in Israel. That was the trade relationship they had. Israelis were looking to normalize their relationship with Saudi Arabia. They were looking to normalize their relationship with several countries in the Middle East. We had the Abraham Accords in place. Israel was working towards peace. Who was the aggressor here? And yet no one wants to talk about it. They want to say, oh, look, the killing was done in this way, not in that way. This is unacceptable. We need to condemn terrorism as it is. We have seen the parallels in India.
And to have a debate, Talha Rashadi, to try and sort of reduce the magnitude of what they actually did. Is that the real intent? Let me actually quote to you, because, we've gone back and forth saying, the White House denied it. No, let's be clear. The White House said that the American president relied on local reports as opposed to Israel itself, through multiple outlets on record, has confirmed that this happened. Let me quote to you. I just played out for you what the IDF spokesperson Jonathan Conricus. In addition, Major Libby Weiss said, we have found bodies of people who've been butchered, beheaded, children of varying ages, ranging from babies to slightly older children. Tal Henrik, a spokeswoman for Benjamin Netanyahu, said that babies and toddlers have been found with their heads decapitated. So on record, Israel is saying this has happened to us. I also want to tell you and the viewers that they've actually released the picture of a murdered toddler. Out of sensitivity and respect, we are not going to show it. But for a country to be asked, oh, you're saying toddlers have been beheaded, show us the evidence. Is that the depth that we have gone to now?
Padmaja, first of all, violence in any form and by any party is highly condemnable, be it Hamas or be it Israeli or the Zionist regime. Now, the most important topic that needs to be discussed here is Hamas is a outfit. It's not a recognized government body. It's an outfit, a liberal outfit, a radical outfit. There can be a debate on that, a militant group or a terrorist group. That's debatable and arguable. But it's not a recognized government. Hamas was the aggressor in this case, but Israel has been an aggressor on a daily basis.
Sir, I want to ask you a simple question.
Padmaja, I'm coming to a point, but at least have the courtesy to allow me to speak for 30 seconds, then you can rebut it. What has the Israel done here? Israel has officially announced that it's going into a war. Now, what has Israel done here? It has made a blockade. It has seized the water supply, the gas supply, the fuel.
Sir, what do children have to do with it, sir? Why are we trying to reduce the enormity of what the civilians of Israel have been subjected to?
Let me complete.
You know, we go on and on with this whataboutery and, tacitly saying, but Israel started it. No child started it.
Of no use sitting out here.
Why are we dragging children into it is my question to you.
That is the question. That is what is happening. More than 1,000 of the innocent children are out there in Gaza hospitals with no electricity for their treatment, with no fuel in the generators out there, with no medicines and no treatment, hospitalization. The ambulances of United Nations are being attacked by Israeli drones and Israeli bombs. There are certain the medics have been died.
So that makes it okay for children to be murdered and then for us to debate about the method in which they were murdered. That makes it okay according to you?
They are being butchered, but we do not discuss it. This selective outrage is condemnable. This selective outrage of the Western media and a selective portion of the Indian media is highly condemnable. You have shown the Israeli video in the starting of the debate. You are showing the video that has been taken from the Israeli Twitter handle, the X handle, but you won't show any videos from the
We actually have, sir. We actually have. And we have not shown some very, very disturbing images of babies charred, murdered, left bloodied, only out of respect to their souls. That being said, I want to end by quoting to you what a member of the Knesset, I asked him exactly this, about how they can ignore the suffering of children in Gaza and yet expect support for the suffering of children in Israel. And he said that when during World War, the Nazis were being bombed, did anyone ask, what about the innocent Germans? When you are a criminal and commit crimes against humanity, the sad reality is that your civilian population becomes collateral damage. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining me.